Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Accelerating Business Operations with Live Data Management. We're very excited that you've joined us here today, and we are very excited to have Trey Wallace from Kapost here to tell the story about how they accelerated their business operations using our treasure data platform. Trey is the Director of Business Operations at Kapost, so he's an expert and definitely knows what he is talking about. So I'm going to go ahead, turn it over to Trey, and please keep in mind we will be taking questions at the end of the presentation. You should see on your screen an area for you to type in and ask any questions that you have, and we will get to them at the end. So without any further ado, take it away, Trey.
Hi, everyone. As Laura mentioned, I'm Trey Wallace, Director of Business Operations at Kapost. I wanted to get started with just a little bit of information about Kapost. If anyone wants more information, definitely email me, trey.wallace@kapost.com, and I will put you in touch with the right person. So we like to call Kapost the B2B marketing operating system. And what we found with our B2B clients is they're really looking at trying to get to revenue acceleration. That's their highest level goal. And the way that we think they get to that is by getting them the right content to the right customer at the right time. And rather than having a cajillion assets, they're all disjointed from each other, we think that a repurposing-driven content operation is the way to deliver that right content, right customer, right time. So Kapost helps do that. We have modules for alignment, for collaboration, for accessibility, and insight that help you create the right content, plan the right content, get it to the right person, and then make sure that you're checking. So that's kind of Kapost in a nutshell. It's all powered by tagging. There's all of these products. Again, if anyone wants more information about Kapost, shoot me an email and I'll set you up. So why do we use treasure data? We use treasure data because building a content operation takes a lot of data. So our customer success managers need to understand how the content operation is functioning. They need to see gaps. They need to realize how to deliver their content operation to our customers. What we found when we give them reports in places that they're not in day-to-day, they just don't use them. So we need to get it at their fingertips, right in their workflow. And then they need to calculate these scorecards. They need to understand health. They need to get calls to action. They need really just a lot of data to be presented in front of them all the time. And they just want it to work. They don't care about any of the infrastructure. They don't care about anything. They just need the data there, and they need it to work. So we tried to get this going in a homegrown system. We needed to take the data from users who are using Kapost that's throwing segment events, and we really wanted to get it into Salesforce so that it could get into Gainsight, and then our CSMs could see it. As I said, we started with a homegrown system. It was a mess. It was a custom Rails app that our team put together. Anytime I wanted anything changed, I would have to go to them. They would have to put it in their next sprint. It would be a big problem. Anytime something was broken, I would have to try to get their attention to fix it. It just really didn't work. It didn't work for our CSMs. It didn't work for me as BizOps. So we heard about treasure data, and we're very excited and switched. So the process here is that now we put treasure data in the middle. We can manipulate the segment data and just push it to Salesforce automatically. So we can create new aggregates now with no dev time. We had a new one that identifies people using different parts of the platform. We call it breadth of usage. I just did that one all myself, no dev time whatsoever. When there are problems, we can troubleshoot them completely within BizOps. If the data doesn't look right, if the CSMs have a question about something, all the data is right there available to me. I can just go in and mess with it and figure things out. So that was kind of our core use case. There's other things that treasure data has allowed us to do. I have Salesforce data in there too, so I can do just some quick analysis. I don't have to push things into our production Salesforce to understand how they're working. I can also do custom reports on things. One of our customers wants to get emailed a list of all the people that did anything in the platform once a month, and so just set that to go, hit the button, give it to the CSM, and we're good to go. And then when I need to do deeper data exploration, it's really easy to pull stuff out of treasure data and put it in Python really quick. Pandas TD is great. You can run stored queries. You can just throw in a query, anything you want, and then you've got the data in a data frame. Go start manipulating it. So it's worked really well for us, and been a real step forward in the way we do things. A little bit more detail on how it works. So for those of you who are more on the data side of things and want to understand the workflow here, so we've got 3 different Kapost systems, push segment into segment events from those into 3 different databases. We have a query that runs aggregations on those and then puts them in the events aggregations table. As I said, adding a new metric is really quick. We just envision it, come up with what the aggregate will be, write the SQL, and we're done. Later, we have some queries scheduled to pull together the aggregates and push them into Salesforce, just on the account record, and we track history on that, and we also push it into Gainsight. We use Domo also for BI, so that this process pushes those aggregates into a Postgres database that Domo looks at. And then finally, the Salesforce puts them into Gainsight. CSMs can see them. CSMs can work with them. They also get called to action when usage drops or when something weird happens. What the CSMs actually see and have access to. So they can see the customer health. It's based on both the data-driven and their qualitative input. So that they've got currently 8 metrics that go into the scorecard. 3 of those are data-driven right from treasure data. And again, when something goes wrong, they can get calls to action. They can really monitor usage directly in their workflow where they're looking at customers already. So these nightly updates happen, and then they drive these 3 metrics: consumer retention, non-consumer retention, and event breadth. And these are different and kind of new metrics than we started with when we were working with treasure data. And again, that was a super easy process to just say, hey, we want to break out the retention one, we want to add this event breadth. Just happened. And then they can also see historical data and trending because all the data is right there. So that was our initial use case for treasure data. That was, we wanted to replace the homegrown system. We wanted to make this more scalable, easier, more robust, all of that. But now that we have treasure data in place, we can actually start doing some other things. So I call this the new hotness because I just think it's super cool. So our team rolled out a new inventory tab, and this contains 3 critical KPIs that we're really trying to keep all of our customers focused on these KPIs, help them understand how their content operation is evolving. And so with these 3 KPIs, they're on this inventory tab, but they don't have segment events unless somebody views the tab, and even then the data is not all contained within the event because it's a fair amount of data. So we don't have a regular record of what these KPIs are. We need to go hit the Kapost API and then store that data somewhere. And so this was a pretty interesting challenge, and one that I generally just would have said, okay, I'll do a monthly report for you guys and toss you the data. It won't be in your workflow. It won't be right there. But with treasure data, we could say, no, we're going to do nightly updates of this. We're going to hit the API, store the data. You're going to be able to see it every day. So it gets a bit complicated. There's definitely a lot of moving parts to this. So the new treasure data workflows, which are very cool. They've written a whole thing called DigDag, I think, and then they host it for you. And the workflows are really neat. I would highly recommend people check them out. So this workflow goes and gets data from Salesforce, goes and gets data from the Kapost API, puts it together, and stores it in treasure data, and then goes and loads it to Salesforce. So the workflow is able to spin up an Elastic MapReduce instance for us, put a Python script in it, run the Python script, and then tear down the EMR. So that in and of itself is just pretty neat, I think. So the script then uses TD Pandas, as I mentioned. You can just run queries against treasure data there, pull them into Python, and then you go and get the goals from Salesforce. You get the Kapost API data, load it into the tables, and understand the CSMs are entering these goals and putting them in Salesforce. They don't know the 24-character strings, so we can go and hit the API and ask for those. Super cool. And then the new API throws it in treasure data. Workflow then loads it from Salesforce, or loads it from treasure data into Salesforce, and then it goes into Gainsight just like the other metrics. And again, this is just something that I would not be able to do on a regular basis were it not for these workflows. So it's really just enabled us to do completely new and cool things. In terms of other cool and new things, I think we want to continue to blow out our metrics, continue to just investigate more and more data-driven things about the way our customers are using the platform, and put those right at the CSM's fingertips. Workflow tools are really cool. I mentioned for our initial use case that we have a variety of scheduled queries that are doing that. I want to put those into workflows. I want to really harden the process, much more robust. They've got retries and warnings and all the things you would want there. And then, the CSMs now, we have one very technical CSM who does go into treasure data and pull their own stuff, but I want to get more and more people in it. I don't need to be the middleman. I think it wastes my time and their time and sort of doesn't put them in the mindset of getting data. So we want to get them more and more in there. So that is what I've got in terms of how we're using treasure data. I think now we can open it up to questions. We also have Lakshmi here who can answer any of your very technical questions about treasure data, and I can answer any of the non-technical questions about what we're doing.
Great, thank you so much, Trey. So this is Laura, I'm here with Lakshmi. Audience, now is the time to go ahead and ask your questions in the screen there. We've had a couple come in already. So one from JC was, I think this is more for Trey, asking about the onboarding process when you decided to switch to treasure data. Was it difficult? Can you talk about that?
It was not particularly difficult, no. I think the segment connector is really well set up and robust. The Salesforce connector as well. So, we had some time where we needed to sort of backfill data. And so that was, I think, the hardest part, which wasn't really a treasure data thing. It was an us thing. It was, the connectors work really well. It's really easy to get started and just, start doing a few queries, start with a little bit of data, and then kind of build on that. So we didn't have any hiccups at all.
Cool, great. Okay, great. We've got another question from Nick. In the future, are there other systems you would add to the pipeline?
I think that this API ability to just kind of hit an arbitrary API and pull data in is really kind of opening my eyes. And I think that we'll pull more data from our own system probably first, from Kapost, and kind of blow out that use case. But it enables us to do anything, really. Anything that's open on the internet we can pull in now. So I'm super excited about that.
Great. Cool. So let's see here. Dan wanted to know, do you see this like a use case that you could use treasure data for within Kapost that would be not just business operations? And CS is that customer success, I think, yes. So are there other places that treasure data could maybe be applied? And this might be a question for Lakshmi too, based on.
Sure, yeah. I can take this. So common use cases that we've seen treasure data applied for, definitely, like Trey talked about, a lot around business operations, customer success, and sales operations in general. Other use cases, marketing and advertising is a big focus for us. So using a very similar concept to bring all of your customer data together into a centralized hub within Treasure Data to then make intelligent decisions about your marketing strategies. That's another common use case. Other use cases, we're deployed across a lot of gaming customers, for example, for in-game analytics, as well as IoT. So definitely a lot of different use cases.
Yeah, and I think, our product team is very interested in this data as well. And so, we run stuff for them and, pass them information about how our customers are using the product. So that's definitely another kind of outside of our success team use case.
Cool. Great. Cool. So, Chris wanted to know, Trey, by switching to the system, did you see any measurable differences in your business outcomes?
Yes. I think the main one is that the CSMs are using the data, they're engaging with the data, whereas before they kind of didn't really trust it. There were enough hiccups along the way that they had kind of stopped using it. And so when we got this in place, when we felt really confident about the data, we were able to push it back to them and say, hey guys, these metrics are working now. They will continue to work. Let's reinvigorate this data-driven process with the success team. And that has just benefits down the line. They are coming to me and saying like, hey, my customer usage dropped off. Help me understand this. Help me look into it. And our renewals manager looks at it when customers come up for renewal to either say, hey, you guys are actually using the platform really well. Let's think to expand your use case. Or actually, this renewal is coming up in 3 months and their usage is dropping off. Let's engage more heavily with them to make sure that they do renew. So really, we had the data before. What Treasure Data allowed us to do was trust it and push it as part of the workflow.
Okay, great. Cool. Let's see here. We have a question from Mike. Wanted to know what kind of skills do you need to have to be able to use the platform?
I think you can't really get very far in the platform without SQL. That's it from my. I think you could do everything you need to there. It certainly doesn't hurt to have Python and some data analysis in Python. Just because they make the tools are so strong that if you can pull the data into Python and start messing around with stuff, you can get to insights more quickly. But really, just simple SQL will get you very far with Treasure Data. And Lakshmi, I don't know if you have a take on that.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely, I think SQL is great just when you want to be able to apply custom business logic into the data. We've tried to minimize on how much you need to rely on command line as much as possible. So we've started to incorporate a lot of the functionality into our user interface. And as we go into solving more marketing problems and business operations problems, we've also been considering building out new user interfaces that would enable you to do simple operations like joining data sets and building segments of your audiences and things like that, using a UI as opposed to having to rely on SQL for that. And then lastly, I would say, it really would depend on how sophisticated you want to get with the platform. So if you would want to use things like machine learning and such, a little bit of SQL expertise would definitely help there.
Cool.
And I'll just follow up. The improvements in the UI since we started being a customer have been really impressive, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do through just sort of point and click that used to be command line. So great job to the dev team over there.
Cool, great. And another question here. Okay. So how much data, Trey, are you dealing with? Like, I don't know, daily, monthly basis, and I guess for Lakshmi as well, like how much data can Treasure Data handle?
We are definitely on the low end in terms of what Treasure Data can handle. We probably have, I would say, somewhere in the millions of events a month, and I think that they're capable of dealing with that much data per minute or per second even. And Lakshmi, you can jump in here. But yeah, so we're not sending a ton of events relative to what they have in there. I think we're at something like I don't know, tens of millions of rows is it.
Yeah, just to add on there. So currently we ingest about 2 million events per second. And so we have typically our starter customers typically would start at like 1 billion events per month, and then we have customers that ingest over trillions of events every month. So yeah, we scale pretty well.
Cool. Great. And let's see here. Well, somebody is asking about a demo, which it definitely, you can go into where we have our links. You can click right in and sign up for a demo. It's free. We'll customize it for you after we have a phone conversation. It'll be nice and easy. We can show you what our platform can do for you. And if there's any other questions here, I don't think so, but that is fine. If anybody has questions afterwards, we'll be contacting you. We'll send you this recording of the webinar, and you can ask any questions that you have as they come up later. So I would like to say a big thank you to Trey for sharing all your expertise and your time today. And I know I'm glad your power didn't go out in snowy Boulder where you are. And thank you to Lakshmi for your time and expertise as well. And with that, we'll release everybody back into the world. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Trey. Bye.